June!
I promise you, you have absolutely nothing to be scared of, okay? I've done this surgery so many times, all right? All you gotta do is close your eyes and you're gonna be great, all right? Bye, Emily. I'll see you later.
Hi, I'm so sorry.
Wait, what are you...
No, I just,
Is everything okay?
Yeah, you forgot this.
Wait, what?
I don't know what
I
you're
know
talking
you.
about.
Anyone but him. Promise me.
Okay.
You've never been here before. You have me. You evolved me.
I know.
It's not what you want.
No, I'm fine. Stop.
The battle over the birth delivery video between Blake Lively and Jamie Heath has exploded into a far more dramatic showdown than anyone expected. In a major turn, the judge ruled that Blake must be granted full access to the videos Jamie recorded of his wife giving birth, despite Jamie insisting under oath that he never showed Blake anything more than a brief, harmless clip on the set of It Ends With Us. Blake's legal team argued that when Jamie was ordered to produce all documents and videos related to the allegations in his lawsuit, he failed to object to the word concerning, a term so broad that it essentially requires turning over every piece of material that could possibly relate to the case. According to Blake, that alone entitles her to view the footage in question so she can prove exactly what she witnessed. Jamie pushed back, saying he never violated any court order. He submitted the video he was told to submit and openly admitted that he had shown her a short snippet. But Blake countered by pointing to moments in Jamie's deposition where, in her view, his answers seemed evasive, calculated, and deliberately narrow, almost as if he was trying to withhold something or control the narrative. And that tension is exactly what has now pushed this already messy case into its most explosive chapter yet. The judge ultimately rejected Blake's claim that Jamie had willfully hidden evidence from her, making it clear that he didn't believe Jamie had intentionally disobeyed any court order. Instead, he suggested that any misunderstanding about the video production was likely the result of confusion rather than misconduct. Blake, however, had pushed hard for a far more aggressive ruling. She wanted the judge to bar Jamie from ever mentioning the birth video in his defense, to force him to immediately hand over all remaining evidence, and even to award her attorney's fees for what she argued was Jamie's deliberate noncompliance. But the judge wasn't persuaded, signaling that while the situation was messy and emotionally charged, it didn't meet the high threshold for punishment or sanctions that Blake's team was demanding. The judge essentially ruled that he wasn't going to impose the harsh restrictions Blake requested. No severe limitations on Jamie, no special jury instruction, but he did order Jamie to turn over the full video to Blake and to pay her attorney's fees for this specific motion. At the same time, the judge made it unmistakably clear that the footage falls under a strict protective order because of its deeply sensitive and personal nature. He warned that while the material may be discoverable for the purposes of litigation, it is still bound by absolute confidentiality, meaning any leak or public exposure would place Blake herself in serious legal trouble. As the judge put it, these materials are extremely sensitive and deeply personal, and must remain tightly secured with zero tolerance for public disclosure. The judge emphasized that these materials fall squarely under the protective order, and due to their intensely sensitive nature, it is highly unlikely that any situation would ever justify their public disclosure. He even cited prior cases where courts permanently sealed nude or intimate images, including during major motions, to make it clear just how seriously the law treats this category of evidence. In other words, he was warning Blake that while he is permitting her to review the footage for the purposes of her defense, the protection surrounding this video is absolute. Its confidentiality is non-negotiable, and any public leak would carry severe consequences. The judge made it absolutely clear. Blake may review the videos to determine whether they match what she claims to have seen, but they will never be allowed to reach the public under any circumstances. No testimony, no argument, no legal maneuver will ever justify making this footage public. And if the video were to appear online in any form, or if Blake were to leak it to the media, she would be violating a direct court order. His message was unmistakable. You may look, but you may never disclose this to anyone. He also ordered that Jamie has 3 days to hand over the footage, though whether he will comply within that time frame is uncertain. It's also unclear whether he'll challenge the ruling with a motion for reconsideration, or whether his wife might intervene to stop the release altogether. But as of this moment, the judge has ruled that Blake has the right to review the video, though personally, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it at all. In fact, I find it disturbing that Blake is even demanding access to this footage when she knows perfectly well that nothing about it resembles sexual assault, harassment, or anything close to pornography. And Jamie's own testimony makes that crystal clear. He recounted under oath exactly what was on the video and what Blake herself acknowledged at the time. When asked if he had provided the video showing his wife in a birthing tub with their newborn to his lawyers for production, Jamie responded that he had. When questioned about where the footage came from, he explained that it had simply been saved on his phone. He confirmed he didn't alter or edit anything before handing it over. The video was exactly as it existed on his device. And when pressed about what the footage actually showed, Jamie described a quiet, intimate family moment. The midwife, his sister, their children, his wife in the birthing tub, their newborn, and the family praying or singing softly while the newborn cried. He recalled whispering a prayer in the baby's ear, nothing more. Yes, his wife was in a tub, but it was a birthing tub. During a birth, surrounded by family, with nothing remotely sexual or inappropriate. His testimony makes that point undeniably. Yet Blake still insists on framing this gentle, private moment as something sinister, which is why the entire request feels so unsettling. Jamie explained that while his wife wasn't clothed, he had a towel placed over her, but mostly over the baby, since the moment a newborn comes out of the water, you lift the child up and immediately cover them with a dry towel to keep them warm. When asked if he appeared in the video he provided to his lawyers, he confirmed that he did, but he was not nude. Yes, his wife gave birth in the tub, and yes, he was in the tub with her during the delivery, nothing unusual for a water birth. He then described the conversation he had with Blake weeks later, after she returned from having COVID and told him he wanted a clean slate and a fresh start. She said to him, "Jamie, you know when you walked up to me to show me the video of your wife, I thought you were showing me porn." Jamie recalled being shocked, apologizing immediately, saying, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Really? Oh my gosh." From his perspective, it was a completely innocent family moment captured during a water birth. But Blake's reaction, as he remembered it, twisted that moment into something it absolutely was not. Blake told Jamie that although she eventually realized the clip wasn't pornography, it startled her in the moment, and that's what she initially thought he was showing her. Jamie said he apologized repeatedly, she acknowledged the misunderstanding, and then they moved on to the next topic. He also noted that Alex Sachs apparently remembers the conversation differently. But Jamie insisted he wasn't trying to contradict anyone's memory, only to recount exactly what happened from his perspective. Blake then brought up the so-called trailer incident, reminding Jamie that a couple of weeks ago, she had asked him to turn away while she adjusted herself. Yet, at some point, he made eye contact. Jamie testified that he hadn't realized that happened and apologized again, saying it may have been a brief glance during the conversation and he genuinely had no memory of it. Justin Baldini's testimony was also raised, and he stated that the only video of Natasha Hath he ever seen, before or after the birth, was a post-birth clip of Natasha holding the baby. According to him, that was the exact video he instructed Jamie to show Blake. Blake's version, however, is dramatically different. She claims what she saw included a woman with her legs spread wide open. But the reality is clear. A water birth video is not pornography, and the contrast between testimonies suggests Blake's retelling may not be entirely reliable. And honestly, watching how this situation has spiraled based on misunderstandings, shifting stories, and exaggerated interpretations is genuinely disheartening. It's frustrating because Blake's attorneys themselves created this problem by using the word concerning in their discovery request, an extremely broad term that legally forces the other side to hand over anything and everything connected to any allegation in the complaint, whether it ends up being relevant or not. Most discovery material never becomes an issue and never sees the light of day, but once that word is used, the door is wide open. To me, this entire motion feels less like a genuine legal necessity and more like an attempt to embarrass and intimidate Jamie and his family. Blake likely knew a motion for summary judgment was coming, along with disputes about what she claimed she saw, and she had to know that deposition testimony might expose inconsistencies in her story. The irony is that because the incident happened so long ago, and because Blake does not own the video, the whole thing ultimately comes down to credibility if it ever makes it to trial. At the end of the day, it becomes Jamie's word versus Blake's, and since the footage can never be shown publicly or to a jury, the truth will hinge entirely on whose testimony the court believes. None of this material will ever see the light of day. It will come down entirely to a question of credibility. Do you believe Jaime or do you believe Blake? From the evidence and testimony, Blake's credibility seems shaky at best. She has repeatedly demonstrated a tendency to bend the truth, something I've personally observed firsthand. Adding to the blow to her case, the judge also denied her request for sanctions against Melissa Nathan, signaling the court is unwilling to grant her the sweeping punitive measures she has been pushing for. All of this paints a picture of a legal strategy that is as much about theatrics and intimidation as it is about actual discovery. Regarding the Melissa Nathan order, the judge made it clear that Nathan was never required to produce fully unredacted documents, only to provide additional explanations for her redactions. Because Blake had the opportunity to challenge these revised redactions before the close of fact discovery, but failed to do so, her motion for sanctions was denied. The judge emphasized that, contrary to Blake's claims, the court never compelled Nathan to produce documents with black box redactions. Instead, the directive simply required her to provide revised redactions, explaining the reasons behind any edits. Nathan complied fully with that instruction, and while Blake now argues that the revised redactions were overbroad and created a new deficiency, the judge pointed out that her window to raise such objections had already closed. In short, the court is firmly onto Blake here, signaling that procedural missteps and attempts to leverage sanctions will not be tolerated. I was watching a TikTok/YouTube attorney, an employment lawyer based in California, who weighed in on the judge's language in the order against Jaime. The judge explicitly refused to say that Jaime willfully defied a court order or acted with malicious intent in not immediately turning over the video to Blake. She noted that this illustrates how the judge is likely to approach Rule 11 or 47.1 sanctions. Just because Blake claims retaliation or misconduct doesn't mean the court will accept it at face value. The judge is clearly unwilling to assume he knows Jaime's intentions and is inclined to give the benefit of the doubt when there's ambiguity. That said, when the court does see fit, it ruled on sanctions quickly, which suggests the other pending motions are simply awaiting proper review. Meanwhile, a separate story has gone viral. A man claims to have uncovered insider information about Blake Lively, hinting at shady or potentially criminal activity behind the scenes. He's looking for a journalist to report it, but so far he has been extremely vague about the details, leaving the public and media speculation running wild. I'll say this candidly. I've spoken to countless people connected to this situation, people tied to Belden, Blake, Ryan, and Justin, as well as crew members and collaborators on projects with all of them. I've spoken to people who actually worked with them, not just gossipers, and these are my opinions, plain and simple. Leslie Sloan can criticize me if she wants, I don't care. But here's the reality as I see it. Blake and Ryan are attempting to paint Justin and his seemingly benign friends at Wayfair, and even his father, as dangerous predators. The truth is far different. Many of the people they continue to associate with in New York's elite circles have histories riddled with repeated accusations of trafficking or are currently incarcerated for sexual assault. The New York scene is notoriously dirty, full of powerful men who exploit women. Yet the one woman in this entire case who stands out as tied to real power is a publicist with a firm once backed by Harvey Weinstein, who also represented James Dolan. It's a stark illustration of how the industry is stacked and how perception can be manipulated, while the actual web of accountability remains far murkier than what Blake and Ryan want the public to believe. The publicist at the center of this case has connections to some of the most controversial figures in New York. While she herself hasn't been accused of wrongdoing, both Harvey Weinstein and James Dolan, the owner of the New York Knicks, have faced allegations, even if many cases were ultimately dismissed, of using publicists and law firms to smear sexual assault victims. Interestingly, Vision PR, the firm in question, shares the same New York address as Dolan. James Dolan, who served on the board of the Weinstein Company, has been repeatedly accused of misconduct, yet he has largely escaped accountability in the lawsuits filed against him. One notable case, brought by a woman named Kelly Croft, alleged that Dolan manipulated her as a massage therapist, luring her to Los Angeles under fraudulent pretenses to engage in unlawful and unwelcome sexual acts. These accusations, though dismissed legally, underscore the murky power dynamics in elite New York circles, where influence and wealth can shield individuals from the consequences of serious allegations.
The lawsuit against Weinstein also implicated Dolan, alleging that he was aware of and even financially supported the abuse through corporate entities, including some linked to music executive Irving. Ultimately, the case was dismissed, but the plaintiff's attorneys strongly disagreed with the ruling, stating that the district court had misinterpreted federal sex trafficking laws and undermined crucial protections for survivors. They announced their intention to appeal, confident that the Court of Appeals would address what they viewed as a grave injustice. Dolan, for his part, dismissed the allegations as a malicious attempt to exploit the legal system for personal gain. He has also been named in other lawsuits brought by multiple women alleging misconduct connected to Harvey Weinstein, further highlighting the tangled web of accusations, influence, and high-profile power dynamics in New York's elite circles. The women alleged that Weinstein had abused them and sued the board members for knowingly covering up his actions, though that case, too, was eventually dismissed. What's undeniable, however, is that Weinstein and James Dolan maintained a close friendship for years. Leslie even represented Weinstein at one point, though she no longer does, yet her professional address remains tied to Dolan. Both men also had documented ties to Jeffrey Epstein, reinforcing just how small and interconnected New York's elite circle of powerful men truly is. And as the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together.